Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I gotta tell you, before we go any further, I'm Devon Decker, by the way. He's Sejohn Sarwick. It's weird being in this chair again. And Sejohn, do you want to tell the people why it might be weird for me to be sitting in my chair again?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be entirely honest. I have no idea where Devon's going with this. I just wanted to say hi really quick before he tells me what's actually going on.
The microphone. Well, the reason why it's weird sitting in this chair is because I actually had an ass transplant surgery last Wednesday. So it's the first time with my new ass in the chair. That's not true, but I got to say new ass, and so did Sejohn. No, the reason it's weird sitting in this chair is because we have another very special episode coming up for you this very week, right? If you're listening to this the day it dropped, Thursday, the 22nd of February, you're going to have a very special episode of the Say Report. And this is a little bit different than our other very special episodes. Sejohn, do you think you could tell the audience why that is?
I still don't know where Devon's going with this, everybody, so... Look, here's the thing. I would believe you in all of this, but I don't remember recording any very special episodes, so obviously that's not happening.
Right. That's because it's not going to be wayward adventurers, armchair psychologist Devon Decker and Sejohn Sarwick on this very special episode. No. It's sort of like a backdoor pilot for what we've been calling around the office Say Report Junior, where my younger sibling Dale Decker, my younger sister,
my little brother Zach Sarwick,
they sat down at Dale at the Say Report studio desk, and they recorded for an hour. And the fun thing about that is Sejohn and I have known each other for 10 years. Zach and Dale, 10 minutes, maybe.
I think they met each other once, probably at a movie, which means they didn't talk.
Exactly. Yeah, I think they have. They met one time. But you know what? I'm pretty sure they talk about that. So if you're tired of us, and after 57 episodes, you might be.
Who wouldn't be?
We're changing it up a little bit. So Thursday, look out to your podcast app. So subscribe. Make sure that downloads right there. So you can listen to Dale and Zach talk for an hour. And I have not listened to it yet, but bonus, we got Will's older sister to do the outro.
Fantastic. God, I'm so excited. You know what I love the most about this is how little work we had to do.
Oh, dude. The other thing is that, high risk, high reward, right? Because they could say literally anything.
We didn't monitor much there. Sorry, guys.
Dale asked me, what are the rules? And I'm like, don't say the N-word. Have fun.
Yeah. We have rules to this.
Right, but I think that was them being like, can we talk about stuff like the time you got your foot stuck in the trolley? I guess if that ever happened.
Now I'm really worried. Now I need to know what they said. Now I'm starting to get scared.
Well,
now that I realize that they could have talked about us, we've got a problem.
Oh, dude, I 100% believe they talked about us. What better way to get to know each other when you're the younger siblings of people like you and me than to just share war stories?
Yeah,
you think that's bad?
Except me. Yeah, right. That's fair. Oh, God, man. Yeah, so we've got a special episode coming out this week, and we didn't have to do anything for it, so enjoy.
It was so good. Yes, please enjoy. Which brings us to, the episode's called Wakanda Forever, so we're definitely going to talk about Black Panther. Unfortunately, you can talk about it now, yeah.
No, wait a minute. Unfortunately, what?
I lied to Sejohn.
Oh! what did you do?
Thursday night, after I had already seen Black Panther, I asked Sejohn if he was going to see it over the weekend because the movie meant
just blew out everybody's ears with that mighty laugh you just made me do.
Because the movie meant so much to me that I didn't want it to be like other Marvel movies that we've discussed in the past, like Thor or Justice League. It's not Marvel, but it's comic book, so it's sort of the same wheelhouse, where I had been the only one who saw it on the Monday after. I wanted to make sure that Sejohn was going to see Black Panther. Now, I had already concocted the lie in my mind that I was not going to be able to see it that weekend. So when he came back with, I already got my tickets for Sunday, big guy, thumbs up emoji. I'm like, I'm going to commit to this lie, though. I'm proud of this lie.
You could have just turned around right then, man.
I could have said that. But here's the thing. I wanted to commit to the lie because I didn't want to say or do anything that would color your opinion of the film. Okay. I wanted to make sure you were going in as blind as I had gone in. And secondarily, it gave me an interesting social experiment. I sort of lived like Wakanda did, where I knew something about myself that I kept secret from the entire rest of the world. No one else knew that I had vibranium deposits and crazy spears that could, like, create sonic waves. Only I knew that. And that was interesting. It was interesting playing, because I wanted to make sure that with everybody, nobody knew that I had actually seen Black Panther. I didn't want to get back to Sejohn until we sat down to record this episode.
Oh, you've been living a lie, Devon, then. You need to come out of the shadows.
I have been living a lie, yes. And it's time for, me to step out and share myself with the world. There we go. There we go. No, I'm glad. I'm really glad that you saw it, and I hope you enjoyed it. But before we go into Black Panther, which is going to be the bulk of this episode, I hope.
Oh man.
Spoilers for Black Panther.
Yeah.
Obvious. The episode's called Wakanda Forever. We're going to be talking about Wakanda. Possibly forever.
Oh, man. Yeah, so what are you burying here, man? You're burying this lead like...
Oh, I'm not burying anything. I thought the film was fucking exceptional. And not just because it was Ryan Coogler.
Yes, we'll get to that. But you keep talking about how before we do Black Panther, there's something else we have to do. What do we have to do?
No, I had to tell the truth. I had to come out of the shadows. I have to reveal to you that I saw Black Panther. We've done the itinerary point. The agenda
so can we do it now?
Point. Yeah, we can talk about Black Panther now, yes!
Oh my god, Devon, what a fucking movie. I was in, and remain in awe. Like, the end.
That's good. So, I'm happy that you said that. I was in such awe that I felt I needed to write down my thoughts about Black Panther. That's how much I'm like, I want to make sure that this feeling is recorded forever. Now, I forgot my notepad upstairs, but I'm going to try to remember it from that, because it's pretty easy. Black Panther, for me, was the kind of movie that makes me never want to see another superhero movie.
Yeah, I know.
And that's sad to me, but before Black Panther, I had exactly zero interest in Infinity War. I was not excited about it in any way, shape, or form, just because of how I felt about Civil War. After Black Panther, if it's possible, that number has like quadrupled. I have so little interest in Infinity War because Black Panther was so beautiful and so awe-inspiring that, like, A, we know that this type of superhero movie is fucking possible from the House of M. But B, I can't imagine that Infinity War is going to get anywhere near it for me. I mean, this was a big gamble by Marvel's part to put out Black Panther 3 months before Infinity War. And for Black Panther to be as fucking good as it is.
Yeah.
That said, I'm still going to see Infinity War. If only just to see this fucking experiment in cinematic universes through to its end.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely going to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because that was the right fucking trailer to pair with Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
Yeah, man. God, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I was sitting there the whole time, and I was like, yeah, there's hints and whiffs of other types of hero stories in here, but there's just something about this one that is just exceptional, you know? And like, we got to the end of the movie, and I was just like, I feel like that story was so familiar, but also so new, and like, there's never been anything else like it. Like, I've read the comics, like, I get it. Like, when I go in and see Iron Man, like, I know what's coming because I know who Jebediah really is, like, and all that nonsense, right?
Obadiah, but okay.
Obadiah? Yeah.
Obadiah Stane.
Yeah, it is Obadiah Stane, isn't it? I was, for some reason in my head, I was like, no, that's a singer. maybe I'm thinking because never mind. Jeff Bridges
Yeah,
is
they
singing.
called him the Ironmonger.
Oh man. So like I just sat there the whole time and like I just felt like I'd seen this movie 1,000 times before, but I got to see it again with fresh eyes, which is like a feeling you never experience, right? Like it was so weird and so cool and so much fun, and like I just love it, man. Like the look of it was so good. The characters were all like, I think these have been some of the best fleshed out Marvel characters from toe to tip. Like every character was just as deep as I needed them to be, you know? Because like one of the big things that people have felt about a lot of the Marvel movies is the villains especially have always come across as very thin and not very memorable, right? But I don't think there's a character in this movie that I don't want to see more of, you know? Like I hope they all end up in all of the other Avengers movies somehow. Like
Well, and that's why Infinity War, showing the trailer of Infinity War before Black Panther would have been such a fucking misstep, because so many characters are shown from Black Panther in one shot of that trailer. So like,
right.
There's all emotional stakes for these characters. We know that he makes it. We know that she makes it.
Right.
Like, but by not reaffirming that before the movie, I mean, I don't know. If you're out there and they showed the Infinity War trailer before Black Panther, please reach out to us. Please let us know. But as far as I know, everybody that I've spoken to said that the only Marvel trailer that they saw was Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Same here, man. That's all that they played before this one. I was expecting Infinity War. I was expecting it, but it didn't come. So
Yeah, no, they did the right thing. And to go further on what you said, when one of my big complaints about a film is that they killed off a character, that's awesome. That means that character fucking meant something. Yeah. That means that death counted.
Yeah, I mean, let's do this. We're talking about
Ulysses
Killmonger,
Claw.
right?
Oh no, I'm talking about Ulysses Claw.
Claw was an interesting kill too, because like I really like that. But again, like the story felt so familiar, and I knew from the get go that Claw was not going to make it to the end. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised that he didn't even make it past the first act of the movie. You know,
yes,
like so. But that being said, it's not because I didn't want more of him. I mean, Andy Serkis in that character, I've loved since Ultron. Like that Andy Serkis just has done phenomenal work in just only 2 films and really only 40 minutes of film. Like, he's not in much of Ultron, and he's not in much of this.
But he's the best fucking part of Ultron. Come fight me. Because what is better than that in Ultron? You're going to say the Hulkbuster fight, but that's just fucking computer graphics fighting each other.
All right, Andy old man, Serkis, but yes,
no, but it's true. Andy Serkis paints so much of the character in like a 5-minute scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything that happens in Ultron is built upon to the extreme in Black Panther.
Yeah.
And
he's really good, and the fact that they killed him off was interesting, but not nearly as like the desire to see more of definitely was more with Eric than it was with him.
Oh yeah, no, but you know what? Eric's death, the fact that it was his choice. The fact that, T'Challa shoved a spear through his heart, but, like, in that way that it's not going to bleed out till I pull this out. And we live in friggin' Magic Land, where we can cure literally any injury, because they show them cure an injury that would have crippled Everett Ross.
Right.
So,
so we
know the possibility for this character. And the speech that he gives of bury me in the sea with my brothers who jumped off the ships because they knew it was better to die than live in bondage, it is just it says so much about what this film was. Black Panther was not your basic copycat film, right? You bring up Obadiah Stane. Obadiah Stane is basically evil Tony Stark, right down to the fact that he is a bigger, badder Iron Man suit in that first movie. Right. Hulk, you have the Hulk, he fights the Abomination. Like, I mean, even Captain America, they took the Red Skull and made him German Captain America.
Yeah, and then they did the same with Winter Soldier in the next one. He just keeps going up against people like him. Civil War being the only one that breaks that.
Exactly.
But
yeah. And that's the thing, is that, like, Marvel, you say they had a villain problem, and they friggin' do. So when I saw, especially the action figures for this, The action figure for Eric Killmonger is literally just the Black Panther action figure with gold accents. Like
Right.
100% Hasbro used the same mold and
Hmm.
just used different paint accents. So I was nervous. I was nervous that this film was going to be just another, oh, I have my own version of your suit. Now let us fight.
Right.
But your morality will make you better. And it
Yeah,
wasn't
man.
that at all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the way that they establish his character and the story that they give him is beautiful. I mean, like everything down to the just the little details, which is true of the whole movie. But like his story specifically, with it starting in Oakland in 1992, like is like such a huge, like impactful, like decision that your everyday person on the street might not even pick up on. But like the idea that they placed it during the race riots, and the idea that his father, who in the scene comes across as like a common criminal planning out like a bank heist, but if you actually know the time and place that it's happening, you actually realize what he's talking about is leading the revolution, right? Like leading the race riots in 92. Like it becomes this whole, he was the son of a revolutionary, and like it becomes this really deep thing, and that they don't throw in your face. They just let the story just be the story, and he just lives in a real world. It was just, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah. No, it was 100% awesome. It told a story, and the thing you mentioned something that hit me is that you've seen this movie 1,000 times before, but it felt like you were seeing it for the first time. That's because Black Panther had such respect for like the hundreds of years of cinema that came before it and allowed a lot of that to influence the storytelling and the characterizations. Like, no word of a lie, I've compared this movie to The Godfather with 3 people. And everybody kind of gives me a look like, what the fuck are you talking about? Now, granted, there are people who haven't seen the movie, right?
Right.
But there is a real question of like who should be in charge of the family, and like you have the 5 tribes, which is the 5 families in The Godfather, and you have this whole, it's like weirdly built on that. And then I feel like a little bit vindicated where I read the article that Coogler said, I've inspired this by Francis Ford Coppola's films made in the 70s.
Yeah, and
And he made three
spot on,
films
man.
in the 70s. And I'm pretty sure that Heart of Darkness, but Apocalypse Now, is not something that influenced this film.
And like the other thing that you got to think about too with that is that that they are both pulling from the same type of sources, which is like honestly like that history, that like Game of Thrones style, like Eastern European history of just like warring families and all that sort of stuff, right? Like there's that familiar story there. In a lot of ways, it felt very like Asgardian in that sense, and like there's just all these little hints of things that felt so familiar, but again, like in a way that I've never seen it before.
It's this
It was,
fantastical
yeah,
world grounded in the realism of our everyday. I
yeah,
mean, even down to Wakanda, that region of Africa does have large mineral deposits. I mean, that's
right,
the Congo. And
man,
that's the thing. Like, it's been stripped for its resources. So we
yeah.
sort of see it sort of becomes an Elseworlds tale of what our world would be like if those people had been allowed to control their minerals instead of having them stolen from them by greedy, colonists.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. And like that's the other that was the other thing is everything that I've read, I'm just so impressed at like the subtlety and how much of the story you actually get just by picking up on the context. It's not just spoon fed to you, because like all I remember everybody talking about from working on this film from before was the idea about Wakanda, born out of the idea of non-colonization, not even anti-colonization, non-colonization, the idea that colonizers never stepped foot there. So everything from their accents to their costumes to their artistic style is all based on the idea that it was never influenced by outsiders, right? And like everybody kept talking about that. Everybody kept talking about it. Chadwick Boseman talked about that's where the accent really kind of came into play, and like all this other stuff, right? And then you watch the movie, and that's never expressly said, but there's so much in the movie that you pick up on being that, right? Like it was insane. Like the idea that that was such an important aspect for them, and it's not even something that they outwardly express in the film, is good filmmaking. Like it's just so good, man. Like, yeah.
it's taking care with your art. It's making sure that you're making something that is fully fleshed out, but you don't need to express it. I mean, they say show don't tell, and this movie does nothing but show.
Yeah. It's just well done, man. Like it's just good. and I'm ecstatic. Like, oh man.
This is like there are times where I need to see a Marvel movie again. I still need to see Ragnarok again. In a theater that is not people laughing at every single line of dialogue, thinking it is the funniest thing they've ever heard. Because I want to like hear the subtleties of the language and experience this story. But like, there's also like Spider-Man, where I needed to go see Homecoming again to make sure that my mother didn't have the great reveal, like that beautiful scene ruined for her. Or Ant-Man, because Ant-Man was the last true Marvel movie that made me feel even an iota as much as Black Panther made me feel, because it was different. And that's the beauty of what Marvel has this ability to do. By not using the same director, by letting directors write their own stories, tell their own stories, they have this ability to really build the world the way that fucking comics built their world. Right?
And they've got the ability to refresh, right, and reboot every time. Like, you don't feel like you're going into the same schlag every time you go into a Marvel movie, because it is fresh.
Yeah, like look at Iron Man 2 to Iron Man 3. Switching from Favreau to Shane Black is night and fucking day. And it really works for that character, because Favreau told all he could with Iron Man in the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it is for the better of the character that happens, right? As much as I love Favreau, and I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now if it wasn't for him and Iron Man. So like, bow to the altar of Jon Favreau for a moment. But
all about it. I still have a Chef poster in my room.
Oh man, Jungle Book too, right? Like everything over the last oh man.
Exactly. Like,
so
he's money and he doesn't even fucking know it.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he knows it now.
I'm just thinking about him and I Love You, Man. Oh God. So there's like this, yeah. I mean, there's this freshness and this newness to everything that they do, and so even if it is one that doesn't hit on all cylinders for me, like Thor, the Dark World, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that one. Like, see, I can't even remember the name of it. Like, I liked it. Like, I'm not saying that it was a bad movie by any stretch, but it isn't one that I ever care to go back to. Right. Meanwhile, Ragnarok comes along, and it's my favorite one, and I think honestly, top 5 Marvel movie of all time right now. Like, oh man, like, yeah, exactly what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I thought that you, of all people, would. That's why we do a show together. But sorry. But yeah, like this movie worked. Oh god, it's so good. This film is so good, and I feel like all we're doing is gushing. Do you want to like talk about anything specific in this film that worked for you? Like,
that worked really well for me. I really love the idea that, again, without rubbing it in your nose in it or without shoving it down your throat, he's told to surround himself with good people in order to be a good king. And what does he do? He picks he picks the 3 most powerful women around him, right? He surrounds himself with the leader of the tribe that had abandoned, for lack of a better word, right? And this American CIA agent, that's his team that he puts together in the end, right? But it's a beautiful team. I mean, like, the women alone are amazing female characters. Angela Bassett as his mom was
and Angela Bassett is so fucking good at as his mother that you never once stop to think that's Angela Bassett.
No, not at all,
and
right?
And that's what really works. Same with Lupita Nyong'o. It's like that's freaking 12 Years a Slave. And I didn't think about that until I saw her name at the end.
Yeah.
Like, it's also a celebration of what acting can be. Because it's like, I know who these people are, but I don't give a fuck right now. Because right now it is Shuri, and it is Ayoke, and it is Nakia, and it is M'Baku, and that's who's on the screen. That's not Martin Freeman and friggin' Andy Serkis as the Tolkien white males. That's Ulysses Claw, and that's Everett Ross. And
yeah, man,
it embodied so much beauty. And there is a better word for the people who abandoned. They wanted their fucking freedom.
Yeah.
They're Rhode Island. Let's be honest.
Yeah, man.
The Jabari are they're Rhode Island. They're like, yo, it's cool. Like, we'll be here. We'll be part of it. You need us. You give us a friggin' call. But we want to be vegans. We want to be vegetarians.
Yeah, right.
We're not really up for this hot African climate. Y'all are crazy, right? We got snow.
Yeah, we're going up in the mountains.
We're gonna chill out a little bit.
Yeah, man.
And that's one of those other things, though, is no one is perfect in this film. And that is something that is amazingly important to the entire narrative, is that everyone has faults. Because M'Baku's saying, you are the first king to visit our tribe in the fucking history of Wakanda. That says something.
That's insane, right?
Like, that says something about... They viewed them as, like, you know, draft dodgers, people who abandoned what Wakanda was. But it was more, you know, we kind of just want to live our own way.
Right.
And that scene where he shows up to challenge for the throne, like, I think it was more just him, like, we're still here.
Yeah, and it's also important that the decision to leave was made in that moment when they were deciding to give somebody ultimate power, right? So you can totally understand that struggle, that idea of them being like, we're not going to stick around for this. You guys are creating monsters, and we see that there's a slight chance that they were right with that, right? So like in his showing up and challenging for the throne, it's never a feeling of him. It's never a feeling of disrespect, right? Like he's coming in because he feels like that power should belong to somebody that can handle it, and he doesn't know whether or not this guy can, so he's doing what he thinks is right for his people, right? It's never this moment of complete disrespect, which is evident between the two of them by the end of that fight, let alone what ends up happening by the end of the movie, right? Like there is an actual respect from them, which was awesome, because like it would be so easy to just make it super cartoonish and just make them just like barbaric villains.
But no, they're living, breathing. He's the funniest character in the movie, M'Baku.
Yes,
that whole thing where he's like, "We'll eat your flesh." No, we're vegetarians.
Yeah, no, that was
like
that was good.
It's clearly one of those, like, we really didn't want to live under some sort of rule. Mm-hmm. Right? We kind of wanted to just do our own friggin' thing.
Yeah, and they save him, right? Like they save, like there's so many.
Yeah, a life for a life. Like there's so much there that's like, again, there's so much in this movie. I feel like usually we're more excited when we talk about stuff, but it is just that awe. I'm still in awe of this film because
it's really interesting. It's really interesting that you were saying, though, that you feel like everybody in this movie has flaws, because I think one of the best things about Prince T'Challa, is that how you say it? Like, I don't want to fuck it up.
T'Challa?
Yeah, T'Challa, yeah. Like, the thing about T'Challa is, like...
If we say it one more time, he'll show up like Beetlejuice.
His only flaw seems to be, like, naivety, right? Like, ignorance is really his biggest flaw, which is not much of a flaw to, like you can't hate a guy for not knowing what he doesn't know, right? Like, it was this moment where I realized that there's only one other person in this universe that's on par with him, and that's Cap. In terms of morality and virtue, like, there are only two truly good people in this world. And Cap, we've shown how his goodness his sin is pride, right? Like he's grown so attached to his moral compass that he refuses to do anything that his moral compass, tells him he must. Whereas this whole thing is about T'Challa questioning everything about himself. So even in his ignorance, he is trying to learn, right? Which makes him even better than Cap.
Right, like Cap wants to make sure he sees Star Wars. T'Challa wants to make sure. Is it right to be hidden? Like, are we like damaging the outside world by saying, yeah, we're not going to get involved? Oh, friggin' aliens in New York, thousands dead. Nah, we're good. We're good because we can't let people know.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that too, and that makes sense as a trait to develop. Years and years and years of seclusion makes you want to protect that seclusion above all else.
Right.
Which is why the fact that Claw has been coming in and out of Wakanda for like the last 30 years is fucking crazy. Like, think about the character development that's done with him. He killed the River Tribe guy's parents 20 years ago.
Right.
And then during the Ultron thing, right, which granted in film was like 2 weeks ago, he's right back in Wakanda.
Oh yeah.
He's like, he don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, he's right there just doing it again. Yeah, and he's insane, right? Which is part of it.
Yes, he is insane. He doesn't care. But like, he's brazen, but it's also the fact that through their seclusion, they don't know how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah,
so many levels.
It's that classic idea, like they've secluded themselves for so long that they've actually kind of underestimated the outside world, much in the same way the outside world's always underestimated them, right? So they've kind of made that same mistake that the people they hate make, but again, just like handled in this beautiful way that was like picked apart and actually like examined and questioned and shown every side. Like by the end of this movie, I definitely wanted him to save Eric. Like I wanted him to save Killmonger. With that moment when he offered to him, I was like, yes, all right, cool. Like I would totally love to see like this Loki style development for this character, which is where I thought they were going to go. But once again, they fucking turned it on me. I was expecting it to be a more familiar trope, and it wasn't.
Yeah, they spoke the language of tropes in a way that I honestly thought Claw was going to come back. Because of how much I've read on that character. He's one of my favorite characters. And that was why when they introduced him in Ultron, I'm like, this is the shades that Black Panther is coming. And that is so awesome to me. It's not just saying the word Wakanda. It is introducing the biggest threat to Wakanda from the outside world in this film.
Right.
Because that's what Ulysses Claw is.
Yeah,
and
but then what they do is
didn't become living sound energy. It's par for the course for the MCU because that's too fantastic for them. But I didn't want to believe he was dead.
No,
and
I know.
Like on
but
some level, I still believe he's not.
They took this character that you expected to be the biggest threat to Wakanda, and then they turned it on its head by showing you that no, actually, like a Wakandan is actually the biggest threat to Wakanda. But like, yeah, it was so good, man. And that moment, I love so many of the small moments in it. The moment when Eric goes under and sees his father, when he sees his father in the old apartment, is like, that scene was so good because it established something very specific for me that like the first scene kind of did, but the idea that they weren't seeing ghosts. I mean, the idea that they weren't seeing ideal versions of these characters in their heads. They were seeing these actual people, and they like the disappointment that Eric's father has in him is not something I think Eric had inside him. You know what I mean? So like there is like a fantastic element to this movie that they don't really touch on or bother trying to explain. It's just part of this world, and I buy it. Like I totally buy it.
Of course, they have purple herbs that give you superpowers. Yes, you believe it. You absolutely believe it. The strongest scene for me, the scene that had me crying 3 days later, was when, and I'm going to cry now, I know it, I already feel it welling up in the back of my throat, is when T'Challa goes under and he sees his father and he says, I'm not ready. And he's like, well, what? You're ready. You could be the king. He's like, no, I'm not ready to live without you. Yeah. Right? Like, do you get that? And his dad says, a father who has not prepared his son for his death has failed. And like that is a fucking smack in the face. But it speaks to that naivete that you say is present within Prince T'Challa. Because he was so emblazoned in his father's world that he never took the time to question the world around him and form his own opinions.
Right. Like, I mean, it's privilege is what it is. Like through and through, he's coming face to face with his own privilege. He never had to think about his father's death. It just wasn't even a thought on his mind. And
then, like, it also hurt because I'm like, oh, then my dad definitely not a failure as a father. Because like it'll suck, but like he has prepared me for the world without him, which is like sad to say out loud. But I mean, if that's the benchmark, congratulations. Right? I don't know. It's just, that's what I thought during the film is like, well, that's a weird way to think about the world, King T'Chaka. But I also kind of get it from that father-son standpoint.
Right.
You want to make sure that you've prepared your child for the outside world. And him saying that, as much as it is a smack in the face to T'Challa, it's also that admission of his own failure.
Yeah, and it's early signs for what's to come, where we really start to see like the human decision making that he had to go through, and things did not work out. Oh man.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of. I'm sorry.
No, it's that's the kind of movie that this is, right? Like, it's just so well done, man. Like, again, it was like putting on a warm blanket, like a warm blanket that my mom made me. And also at the same time, like, it was brand new in every way, and the style to it was just like phenomenal. Like, again, I recognized bits and pieces of what I was seeing, but I'd never seen anything like this on screen in front of me before. Like, I love all of the artistic elements that affect the designs of things. So like the way the ships look, the way his suits look, the way that the trains travel, like all of that stuff was just like, the details were just so good. It felt like this was honestly a Marvel making, more than anything, taking a swing at the Lord of the Rings, right?
Oh yeah, without question. Especially
Like
when the
between the world
rhinoceros showed
building,
up.
well, yeah, right. Between the world building and the structure of the story and the scenes, the battle scene at the end, like, yeah, yeah, the rhinos, like, it just felt like that. And that never occurred to me. You know, we always talk about how Marvel movies are always so good because they kind of work in a specific genre onto themselves. Like, Ant-Man's a really good heist film on top of everything else, right? Like, and it didn't even occur to me to think about what kind of movie this was going to be. And it came out as a fantasy epic with a very heavy scientific grounding, but it was amazing
With a splash of family drama thrown in there. Like,
yeah.
without question. I think one of the best tropes, and the one that I mentioned afterwards, there's that scene in the beginning where they're trying to recover Nakia, and he's killing all the human traffickers, and he's about to kill the boy, and she stops him and says, he is a child. He was captured himself, and they spare him. Now, I've seen enough movies where the person that you spare is your fucking thorn in your side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, this kid's going to come back to bite him, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. But it still mirrors the trope of the one you leave behind, because that's exactly what happened to Eric.
Yeah.
But it's like this nice way to, like, put that thought in your head, but, like, without
he made the same decision his father did.
Right, except that this one was left with people. He was left with other refugees, other people who had been captured. So, but it's this cool mirroring of what happened with his father, and it's just seeing that, like, it can turn out, and it still might turn out bad for him, that this person who had been indoctrinated so much that he would hold a weapon against the Black Panther is out there.
But do you think he would make a different decision now after everything that happened?
No, I think that he definitely would let that. No, because that's the thing. Like, and that decision was not instructed by his father. That's why Nakia is one of his closest advisors.
Yeah.
Because he was just seeing it as, you're a soldier, you're the enemy. And she's like, no, you need to understand that this guy's like friggin' 12 holding an assault rifle. He's not the enemy. He's got tears in his eyes because he's about to die. He peed himself. This kid peed himself. Are you going to kill a child, T'Challa? No, I'm not. You go with these ladies, these hundreds of ladies who are about to be sold into sexual slavery.
Oh, man. Oh, God, yeah, no, it was a hell of an experience. And, like, I can't wait to do it again. Like, and I can't wait to see where they go. I mean, they're talking about doing 3 of them, which I love, and also very much breaks out of Marvel's whole idea of Infinity War kind of being like the end of this version of the MCU.
Infinity War is going to be the end of certain elements of the MCU. That's how I've begun to view it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's when Downey Jr. is going to be out for good.
Yeah.
I could totally believe Chris Evans being out for good. Thor's already talked about it, right? Chris Hemsworth has already said, you know, I'm kind of done with this. I can imagine ScarJo's done with it.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that I can see going. But then you look at Ant-Man and the Wasp, that trailer, you saw the trailer, that looks like it's not going to be informed by Infinity War in the least.
No, not really. Yeah,
and that
no,
is
no.
exciting to me. And the only thing that disappoints me about there being a potential for 3 Black Panther movies is I don't want the third one to be The Godfather Part 3.
Fair enough. No, that's that's true. I mean, who knows what it's going to be 3 movies out. But I mean, imagine if this guy becomes like the focus, really, like the building for the next MCU. Him, Doctor Strange, right? Like,
I could see it working. Even Doctor Strange, like, I feel like Cumberbatch did it and he wants to move on.
yeah.
I could totally. All right, so I've been thinking a lot. You mentioned your top 5 MCU movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not that I would ever ascribe that to it. Like, I wouldn't say these are my favorite, but there are 4 movies in the MCU that, like, really affected me and matter to me in terms of what it is. And the first one is Iron Man, right? The first one has to get the tip of the hat because it showed that we can make superhero movies like this and we can borrow on a larger world. Spider-Man doesn't have to exist in a fucking vacuum, right?
Right.
That is what Iron Man did. Is like, there's going to be a universe. There's going to be more stuff. The second one for me is Thor. Now, yes, I'm biased because Thor is my favorite Marvel character. I say that unapologetically. I absolutely love him. But Thor is a fucking Shakespearean epic directed by Kenneth fucking Branagh. It does not feel anything like the 2 Iron Man movies or the Hulk that came before it. Right. It is its own thing. And it is the first glimpse that Marvel is going to be letting them tell their own stories with these characters until they all come together. The next one is Ant-Man, because it's another one of those. It's like, this isn't a superhero movie. It's a heist film that involves superpowers.
Right.
And then the last one is obviously Black Panther, because it just focuses up all of the best parts of the MCU for me. The biggest issue is that after the Avengers, everything became homogenized. They became so fucking protective of their Marvel Cinematic Universe that they weren't going to take risks. They weren't going to do anything different anymore. And if I'm wrong
and
about
phase
that,
2, no. Phase 2, you're totally right. Like, phase 2 was very much about them solidifying what they had already succeeded at, and like just doing it at its best. Because phase 2 is what gives us things like Winter Soldier, and like, so you get like, honestly, what it is it's like better versions of phase 1 movies. Iron Man 3 ends up coming out and really kind of correcting a lot of the stuff that went wrong with Iron Man 2 and that sort of shit. So like phase 2 is very much not about them moving forward, but instead like taking a stand and perfecting where they already were. Phase 3 is when they start stretching their legs, for sure, because that's when you get things like Doctor Strange. That's when you get things like Black Panther.
Right. And I don't disagree. I 100% agree with that. But like, those are the ones that work for me. Like, Doctor Strange, in a lot of ways, still feels like a paint-by-numbers Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Where Ant-Man doesn't. Ant-Man feels like its own thing. This feels like its own thing, and that's what matters to me. The best part about Black Panther is there's no other fucking Avengers in this movie. They let it fucking breathe.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons why the Guardians films work so good for me, is because it's impossible to have.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't mention the Guardian films, but I don't want to put one above the other. They exist in their own little vacuum for me.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing, because I just said superheroes don't exist in a vacuum. But we're about to have these 5 schmucks, 6, maybe 8 now. I guess 8 would be the number that you'd call the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, right.
Like, they're about to smash into the existing MCU universe.
Yeah.
And like, that's kind of exciting. But I'm also kind of nervous.
It's exciting for me because I feel like they're going to be safe no matter what. I'm real excited to see what kind of shit they fuck up in the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Like I think they had to correct. They had to do the last Thor movie the way that they did, because having the Thor from Thor 2 be the one that meets the Guardians would have been really hard.
That's very true. I can't disagree. I like Thor: The Dark World. And again, it's because they sort of tried to do the first movie better. Because I feel like they didn't like it. I feel like Marvel does not like what the first Thor movie is. So they're like, let's make it more of a fantasy epic, and let's like throw like, oh, like they're jumping through fucking holes in space time and da 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 da, and it's like, no, you guys probably should have just done another Thor movie like that, like high freaking epic bullshit flowery language.
Yeah, they didn't stick to their guns on that one.
Yeah, like where they tried and succeeded in correcting the sins of Iron Man 2 and Captain America the First Avenger. They dropped the ball on Thor because there was no Thor that needed to be corrected.
Yet. And then you get Thor Ragnarok.
And then Thor Ragnarok comes along, and it totally builds on it. But the Thor trilogy as like a story really works for me.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because I watched Thor 1 and 2 before Ragnarok, because Dale had never seen them.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, how have you never seen these? One of these is the greatest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie after Iron Man. like the first, I love the first Thor movie.
It's good, man. It's real good. I really love Thor.
The introduction of Hawkeye is perfect. Him saying to Coulson, when am I going to take him out? Because I'm starting to root for him. is just like, and there's fucking Hawkeye in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, man. God. Yeah, the Thor is a really good one. And I love his friends there, the Warriors 3. They come down and give him a hand and all that. Like,
yeah,
it is a really fantastic
and the Warriors 3. Yes, they're great. But like, I also understand why when we're graduating from Thor the Asgardian to Thor the Adventurer, we have to get rid of those characters. Why there's fat that needs to be trimmed. Why Hela has to be made his sister.
Yeah. Yeah. But now he is the captain of a freaking spaceship with one eye. He's the god of thunder. It's the most metal thing ever.
I have to say this, though. I'm so happy the resolve in Black Panther was not Wakanda is inside of us. Because Marvel's been leaning real heavy on that particular trope.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that they avoided that.
No, see, they completely, they separate themselves very very handily from the rest of the universe. Like, it's awesome.
Also, you said something about he's going to have this American CIA agent. That speaks to foreign relations. And that is brilliant, like, subtext. Right? It's not just that, like, oh, he's this white guy I've dealt with in the past. It's, no, he's a guy who's got a friggin' brain in his head. Yeah. I'm okay with him being the first non-Wakandan to be invited into my country in generations.
Well, not only is he intelligent and well-spoken, but on top of that, he also knows he's a guy because of all the things that he has done with him, you know, from hunting down Bucky to him saving his sister. I mean, not his sister. He saves Lupita, right?
Taking the bullet for Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah.
Nakia.
Yeah, so, like, so his kid Martin Freeman was like perfect in this movie because of how much it wasn't about him. You know what I mean? And he's like the perfect kind of actor for that. And I think maybe some of that comes from like me watching him on The Office or something. Like he has this fantastic ability to step into the spotlight when you need him to, but the second you don't need him to be noticeable, he can just fade away. So like he's there, but like he's not where your attention is, which is like which is like a weird thing to praise somebody for, but it really is kind of like a key thing for this character in this movie. Like he cannot, it could never become about him being the main character and us seeing Wakanda through his eyes, because that would have been all sorts of weird, right? Like we had to maintain the idea that Prince T'Challa was the main character of this movie. So like the second that they introduced this goofy sidekick, there's always that risk, right? And so they handled it masterfully. Like he's so much fun in this movie, but also like I didn't need much more of him. I love Martin Freeman, but I don't need more of that character in this movie.
The best usage of Martin Freeman, it is summed up in one scene. It is when Eric brings the body of Ulysses Klaue to the border, and he's like, oh, he's one of ours. Super cavalier. Super like, I get it. I'm in a weird underground Wakandan laboratory facility. But no, I have information to share. Yep,
Yeah,
that's it.
And he readily shares it with
And
them
he's like,
because he
yep,
really
he's one of ours. We trained him up. Here's the stuff about him. Like, he's like, yeah, he takes all of it in stride. He is not awestruck at all by it because
Mm-hmm.
he's fucking seen some shit.
Hmm.
But it does bring me, having seen some shit, brings me to the only question I had about this movie.
Okay.
And I didn't have it until 2 days later. So that's something, right? That's mark of a good movie. That it wasn't until 2 days later taking a shower, I'm like, I questioned the timeline. The mantle of King of Wakanda and the mantle of Black Panther are not synonymous, right?
Right.
So T'Challa had been the Black Panther long before T'Chaka died.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because that's how I justified it in my head. Because it's not that his father dies and then he takes the purple herb to get revenge. He had been acting as the Black Panther and then went out to do his friggin' job.
Yeah, I almost feel like what it was like was like a leveling up when he became king. I wonder if it wasn't that he had the herb, but he was a trained agent. You know what I mean? Just highly trained individual.
Right, but then
and it
there's the
wasn't
part where he
until
picks up
and
a
it wasn't
fucking
until his
car.
father dies that he actually gets the superpower. Because that seemed to be part of the whole. No, they take his power away.
They take his power away. See, this is the only thing that I'm not sure of the timeline on. But then
no,
you
I think that must mean that he's been it for a while.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
Because in Civil War, he does things that clearly I'm a well-trained operative does not explain.
Yeah. So he's been it for a while. But yeah. So what's the question though? Like,
So
that makes sense to me.
Exactly what you just said. I was wondering, is he just highly trained in Civil War, or does he actually have the powers? And if he does have the powers, did he get them when T'Chaka died, or like as a reaction? Like, just take this real quick, fuck the fucking pop and circumstance?
Yeah.
But then talking about it with people, the mantle, it's not the same, right? That's why there's still a challenge to see who will be the king of Wakanda.
Right.
And that's why the powers are stripped. Like,
well, and you know the exact moment that this is how it works. He shows up to save what's Lupita's character's name?
Nakia.
He shows up to save Nakia, and he shows up as the Black Panther, and that's no surprise to her. It's the moment when he says, "My father's died." Like, that is the surprise moment for her. Yeah. So like he has been the Black Panther because she recognizes him as the Black Panther.
And there you go. So that's the thing. And there you go. More citation from the movie to support that what I figured was the way that it was explained.
See, and that's the beautiful thing. Like I was saying, this movie doesn't ever like spoon feed you anything, but also it doesn't deny you any like answer. Like, you think about it for 10 minutes and suddenly you have all of the things you need to answer the question. But the fact that they didn't just like shove that down your throat is, again, just like just a respect for this film that was just beyond compare.
Yeah. And the fact that it was my mother, who she has not seen all the Marvel movies. What she remembers from Civil War, because she's like, have I seen this character before? I'm like, yeah, he was in Civil War. She's like, I just remember the fight that went on too long, and was also somehow the best part of the film. And I'm like, so you don't remember Black Panther at all? And she's like, no, I don't recall him at all. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Because, it's him and Spider-Man. They were the new ones. But then for her to say that, but then me to be like, so did he have powers in Civil War? And she's like, yeah, he definitely did. Because just because his father was still the king doesn't mean he doesn't become the Black Panther earlier than that. His father is old. He just wants to focus on ruling. And I'm like, holy shit. She's like, yeah, that's how that works. And I'm like, all right, thank you, Mom. You've made me think. And that's why I wanted to bring the discussion to you, who not only made me think, but then also cited something in the film that explains it. And what really makes this movie sing then and soar is that it didn't have to fuck with established canon in order to be what it is.
Yeah. It's just good.
It's just a good movie. And if you haven't seen Ryan Coogler's other films, Fruitvale Station is one of my favorite films of the last 10 years. Without question. Highest recommendation to go see Fruitvale Station. It is
Creed is not half bad.
Creed, I'm excited for the next Creed. Because I feel like they got rid of all the nostalgia stuff that they had to do in Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Like how they got rid of all the nostalgia stuff they had to do in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Right. Last Jedi didn't work for some people, but I feel like with this character and with what they're going to do, Creed 2 is going to sing again.
Yeah.
Especially since he's fighting Ivan Drago's son. Woo!
And I also just like... It speaks to also the relationship between Michael B. Jordan and him, like the work that they've done together. Like you just go back and watch some of the other stuff because it is why Michael B. Jordan is like at the top of his game for Black Panther. Like he's man, the way that he handles the character of Eric Killmonger is just like beautiful. That moment when he comes out of the dream and we've just seen him be so vulnerable, and then his first act is to be like burn it all, was just like so well done. And I still felt for him at the end.
Yeah, you do. And that's the thing, you can just see that there's so much anger in him, and he's just dealing with it the only way he knows how, because he saw what his father was trying to do. It's beautiful. It's a good film. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, like, check the movie out. We're gonna check it out again for sure, and just like, man, just enjoy it.
Yeah,
take it in.
Enjoy it. Like this is big, right? Don't be one of those people who sees that like everybody's freaking out over it and be like, I don't want to be part of the trend. People are freaking out over it because it's a great friggin' movie. Mm-hmm. It deserves all of the praise that it's receiving and more.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? So, if you want to comment on anything that we had to say, I can be reached on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
And I'm at Siege versus the World. Don't forget to check out the Little Uns.
Yeah, the Little Uns? Say Report Junior. I'm excited, though. They seem to have a really good time. I haven't listened to it yet, but Dale has been on my ass to listen to it.
If it becomes more of a thing, I'm definitely going to lean into like a Little Rascal version, like of title cards and things like that. You just wait.
That's completely exciting. I'm sure they'll love that. That's the exact way, if this continues to be a thing between them, to get them to not talk about you, is by insulting them with their placard cards.
We have some control, you jerks.
All right, so with that, Liz, take it away.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.